Hi everyone, this is my video about what's wrong with the X-Men movie from the year 2000. I'm not going to bury the lead. Not much. I actually absolutely loved watching this. I saw it in the theaters. I was actually on boot leave right after finishing Marine Corps boot camp in San Diego. I saw it somewhere in San Diego. It was very, very exciting to see this movie that I had watched the development of before I went to boot camp. And then even like in boot camp, even though it's very restricted, on Sunday you could buy the newspaper. That was like a treat. You could go to church or buy a newspaper. So I read the review and I was very, very excited. Here's the funny thing. I'm pretty sure I've only seen this movie once before. I went to see it in the theaters, and I don't know if I would call it disappointed. It's kind of like that same thing I said about the Edward Norton Hulk movie, where when I saw it in the theaters, I was just like, well, that was okay, I guess. But then, after watching the MCU devolve into the shittiest sitcom imaginable, you go back and look at these fairly formulaic movies, and they just seem amazing. So the thing I kept marveling at, no pun intended, while watching this movie was that it was presented straightforward. It's not even really a superhero movie, it's more sci-fi. And everything is presented completely sincerely. So the story is very simple, and I think that's the thing that bothered me the first time. I wanted a really intricate X-Men movie. Just like the comics were extremely intricate with lots of history and lore and subplots and all that type of stuff. But no, this was bare bones introducing the concept to normies. So it's basically like, here's Rogue, she manifests her powers, runs away, she runs into Logan, who is, oh my god. So I think everyone knows the story that Dougray Scott, the villain from Mission Impossible 2, he was supposed to be Wolverine. He got injured during the shooting of Mission Impossible 2. He was supposed to shoot X-Men right afterwards. They had to sub in Hugh Jackman at the last moment. And holy shit, he has no muscle tone. He has no muscle mass. He is skinny fat. Oh my gosh. He actually spends a weird amount of time on hospital beds. Weird for a guy with a healing factor. But in the movies, they're acting like his healing factor for major injuries takes a couple days. But at least he heals from them. In the comics, he can basically heal from everything within seconds. But then I noticed that his outfit, which is a t-shirt, a flannel shirt, a jean jacket, and a leather jacket, they have to stack all of that on top of his skinny frame just for him to look remotely heroic. Obviously, he got in much better shape for movies where he actually had time to prepare, but it's kind of shocking. So it's a very bare bones story. It just kind of gets you there. But the thing that I loved about it is, number one, it looks just great. The aesthetic looks fantastic. I know everyone said like, oh, that was just a cheap, cynical move to have them all wear black leather. It totally works within the movie. It fits the aesthetic. I like this kind of polished metal look for both the X-Men headquarters as well as Magneto's headquarters, because Magneto helped Xavier build Cerebro, things like that. I was kind of surprised how cool everyone looked. Wolverine, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Xavier, they all look amazing. Magneto, Sabretooth, even Toad was pretty cool. One of the great things about everyone is that no one got overused. There were barely any jokes. It was all presented completely straightforward. And the other thing is, they used a lot of shadow. In fact, the first scene with Wolverine, every time you're about to get a good shot of his face, you don't get it. It'll be blocked by some sort of object, or it'll be in shadow, and it really, really works. So very simple story, but I thought quite good. Senator Kelly, played by Bruce Davison, is trying to push through the Mutant Registration Act, which gives normies an understanding of what mutants are. I actually forgot that Kitty Pryde, played by a different actress, and Jubilee, also played by a different actress, were in the first movie. I completely forgot about that. But yeah, it's kind of hard to review because it's so bare bones and simple. But just the aesthetic, just things kind of look cool. When they fly in the Blackbird, it looks cool. It shows off its capabilities. There's some fairly dodgy wire foo, actually pretty damn dodgy. Everyone always likes to bring up that stupid line about, do you know what happens to a toad who gets hit by lightning? But it's like way into the movie. A movie that has barely had any jokes. So even expecting it to show up, it was still just kind of a blip in the radar. The one thing that always bothered me and will always bother me is how plastic Magneto's helmet looks. Like, this thing looks like it was 3D printed. It doesn't just look plastic. It looks fragile. It looks like it was left out in the backyard and you can just crumble it. But my favorite part was actually the senator. Because usually in things like this, they make the senator completely evil, completely bigoted, but he has a very simple perspective on mutants. He's just like, these people are dangerous. Everything that's dangerous is regulated, so we need to regulate them. So Magneto's plan is to find a group of world leaders meeting at the same time and use a whatever machine to turn them into mutants. Therefore, they will have the interests of mutants at heart because they themselves will be mutants. I remember everyone making fun of this villain plot, but it's actually really, really good, especially when you see it happen to the senator. He is given these really creepy liquid powers. And one of the things about being sincere and not just shoving a million jokes into everything is you can actually let people have emotions and let things build. You see, at first he just kind of looks wet and he's kind of flexible, but then you realize the process isn't stable and his whole body is liquefying. And that is a great scene. There's a great scene where he's in a medical bay on a table. He's dying. He hears one of the X-Men. He's like, hey, can you come over here? I don't want to be alone. And so he's talking to Storm and he's like, do you hate us? And she says, sometimes. And he says, why? And she says, well, I guess it's because I'm afraid of you. And then since he's dying, he makes this kind of gallows humor joke. He goes, well, you don't have to be afraid of me much longer. And then he just dissolves and dies. And I'm not used to this. I'm used to everything being a joke, everything being a pratfall, everything being some kind of gag. No emotions, especially no sincere emotions. Nothing builds. Everything just pops off of the edge of the screen into the middle of the shot. So even things that were cringy, like the rap rock in the soundtrack, like the bad jokes, which they weren't a lot of bad jokes, but they were bad jokes, with some of the not so great special effects. Overall, I just absolutely loved it. And I'm going to go watch the second one probably today. So highly recommended. It's funny how time has been very forgiving to this movie, but mainly it's just comparison. Superhero movies, which used to be an event and very exciting, have now become a chore. But this did not feel like a chore at all. And the whole movie just flies by. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.